Juneteenth, the main topic of today. Yeah. So we're going to talk about Juneteenth and kind of the controversy that comes outside of Juneteenth. Yeah. So Juneteenth, newly created, almost unanimously voted on as well, which is a great thing. I would say that so with Ocasio Cortez, today we celebrate Juneteenth, the day we celebrate the emancipation of slavery in the United States. And on this day, Congress held a hearing on reparations. A massive crowd showed up for it. And this was a thing just 2 years before. Let's give it a watch.
The Civil War, black people were subjected to a relentless campaign of terror, a campaign that extended well into the lifetime of Majority Leader McConnell. It is tempting to divorce this modern campaign of terror, of plunder, from enslavement. But the logic of enslavement, of white supremacy, respects no such borders. And the god of bondage was lustful and begat many heirs: coup d'etats and convict leasing, vagrancy laws and debt peonage, redlining and racist GI bills, poll taxes and state-sponsored terrorism. We grant that Mr. McConnell was not alive for Appomattox, but he was alive for the electrocution of George Stinney. He was alive for the blinding of Isaac Woodward. He was alive to witness kleptocracy in his native Alabama and a regime premised on electoral theft. Majority Leader McConnell cited civil rights legislation yesterday, as well he should, because he was alive to witness the harassment, jailing, and betrayal of those responsible for that legislation by a government sworn to protect them. He was alive for the redlining of Chicago and the looting of black homeowners of some $4 billion. Victims of that plunder are very much alive today. I am sure they'd love a word with the Majority Leader.
So yeah, this is the issue. The liberals, first of all, the conservatives are absolutely furious about this day. They do not understand this day. They see it as a waste of time. I would say that I disagree with that. Strongly disagree with that. And you know what? The liberals as well have problems of their own. The liberals think this is enough. Liberals think that saying that this is enough, and we're done with it. This tweet was done 2 years ago. 2 years ago, on the day of celebration of what we were supposed to celebrate. It's a long time coming, and first of all, liberals are good at heart, but one of the problems with the liberals is that they think this is enough. This is a feel good feeling. Look, like Ocasio Cortez, AOC has said, there needs to be some type of reparations. Affirmative action is not enough, and affirmative action is only a band-aid because it is instinctively unfair. It is unfair. But that unfairness is needed to kind of uplift people of color, POCs. And that is needed. And there needs to be more. There needs to be probably maybe tax breaks, maybe increase in services to these communities, right? Increased investment, government investment in these communities and infrastructure. And, this is a hot topic with conservatives because they see this as a threat to, white supremacy. And they feel uncomfortable about this because, they've experienced a kind of privilege in America for a long time. And this is an example that sometimes times have to change, and more progressive leftist views are threatening kind of their power. Yeah, and it's crazy. I guess we can because we are kind of on time. I think we can skip this, but I'll give you a quick rundown of Juneteenth. Juneteenth is when the final state in the Confederacy, the CSA, relinquished or abolished slavery and emancipated the slaves. The U.S. Army went into Texas, and they were told to stand down. And on June 19th, they all slaves in the CSA and in America were emancipated. And this was a long time coming. It is a pivotal day that is forgotten about. We always talk about the end of the Civil War, but we never talk about the day that African Americans were emancipated. And I think it's an important thing. And right here, voting rights is not just a black issue. It's a black issue. It's a class issue. It's a progress issue. Yeah, it is. This is on the backs of Juneteenth as well. Look, it's Juneteenth is a recognition of black oppression, but it should not be for some levels. This is this is the definition of conservatives. This is the definition of freedom. It's not. I think it's a traditional way, a historical way of looking at things. There needs to be progression and there needs to be improvement. And African Americans are not experiencing this, as well as other people of color, right? Asian Americans, Latino Americans as well. They're not. They're not given the same kind of privileges and rights as other white people do. But this is also a class issue as well because mainly the majority of people in inner city areas, in other areas around the country, are majority people of color. The middle class is usually occupied by Caucasian people, right, in America. If you look at the census, most people in the upper class and in the middle class are Caucasian people, people of Caucasian descent. Really, a lot of the lower class and working class is made up of, African Americans and other people of color, APII, and yeah, this needs to be more than just a holiday. It needs to be more that there needs to be something. They need to get this right. They need to progress forward, and there needs to be a sign of change. But sometimes people don't agree with it, like good old Ben Shapiro. I do not like Ben Shapiro anymore, but I guess we can see what he has to say on Juneteenth, right?
Going to be a federal holiday for reasons teachers won't be allowed to explain to their students out of fear of critical race theory backlash. Actually, celebrating Juneteenth is precisely counter to critical race theory, and the people pushing it have nothing but malignant intentions for what comes next year. Now, Juneteenth is the date in which slaves in Texas were finally informed about the Emancipation Proclamation, and it happened like 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. And so it's been celebrated in black communities around the United States as sort of the date marking the end of slavery for decades, truly decades. And so now it's been made a federal holiday. And as I said yesterday on the program, not only do I not have a problem with this, I think that it's quite good that we have a federal holiday marking the end of slavery, because
Okay. This space. This is what you call coping. This is a coping mechanism. All right. Okay. He's not. He's trying to cope, and he's gonna. I bet you he's gonna make a point about how he's not racist, that he's not prejudiced, that he's not this because he supports the day, and this is and he was put a traditional spin on this, and historical view on this, and say that this means that why are we talking about racial oppression, racial prejudice, inequality? Because this is a day that marks it, and I think he's going to go on to say, and saying that conservatives are not angry about this is an understatement. No, they're furious. Republicans and far right and right wing conservatives are furious about this day. Like, they might not say it in person, all right, but there are undertones about it. And one of the main attacking points of it is that accept your holiday, have a good time, federal holiday, accept those your free one day, and don't talk about anything else relating to reparations and African American rights. Right? That's really what I'm getting at. I know how I was in the conservative space. I know how they speak. I know what they say, and what they say to cope, and what they say to sound convincing. And this is one of the ways that Ben Shapiro right here is trying to sound very convincing. All right, let's carry on.
That was a signal moment in America's history. It seems to me that we should absolutely celebrate the end of slavery, whether that should be on Juneteenth or whether that should be upon the ratification of the 13th and 14th Amendments to the United States Constitution. A very good thing. Now, what the left was saying is that they want Juneteenth to be made a federal law so that we can basically club Americans by saying that if they don't now agree with our racial agenda, then it's because they don't understand the legacy of Juneteenth. The legacy of Juneteenth is racial progress, right? It is literally marking racial progress in the United States. And there's been a lot more racial progress, as it turns out, between 1865 and 2021.
Oh God, yeah. You see, I was right. I was right about it. You know, my prediction about what he's gonna say exactly happened. Right? Oh God, Jesus. Yeah. This is how he this. This is how he does it. Every single controversial kind of argument he makes about race, he says these kinds of things like, oh, there's so much racial progress, there's so much of this, so much of that. It's like, and now the left wants it more, wants more and more and more. Yes, they need more because it's still not fair enough, right? There still needs to be progress. That day is about racial progress, but even though that was racial progress, you know, they still reverted back to being sharecroppers. They still, you know, were discriminated against. Jim Crow was introduced. That was a step back in that direction. So talking about progress is it's not great. It's not a great talking point, right? And you know, people should expect more out of their nation, out of their country, the place they live in. They shouldn't just be content. Ben Shapiro usually does this when he's talking about hot issues, when things are so clear and so obviously right. He tries to spin them in a way to downplay kind of the meaning of them, and telling people subtly in kind of double speak in the way he talks very fast is just to calm down, be content with what you have and the victories you have.
Okay, so it seems that should be a date that, you know, frankly, everybody should celebrate, right? I mean, that is a very, very good thing that slavery ended in the United States. This is undisputed. Okay, but the left is using this as an excuse, as they always do. Everything is an excuse to push for more, always. So you have a person named Astid Herndon, okay, at Astid Wesley on Twitter. He's a national political reporter based in New York for the New York Times. He's a reporter, not an opinion guy. And he is very upset that Juneteenth became a national holiday yesterday. Again, voted nearly unanimously in the Senate, with like total support from everyone. He says that what's truly amazing is that many of the same people who are voting to make Juneteenth a national holiday also oppose critical race theory. And critical race theory is not Juneteenth. Critical race theory is the belief that all of America's institutions are irrevocably intertwined with racism, that they are shot through with racism, that they are so...
God, Jesus Christ. Okay, now he's making the argument that they're not interlinked. They are interlinked, all right? Juneteenth is based on a government institution of slavery, right? And critical race theory does relate to that in the sense that, oh God, this is the new kind of abortion. There's a new abortion rights. This is a new kind of women's rights. This is the new, like, voting rights. It's the new talking point of the far right libertarians and far conservatives. It's this. I know when I see it, and this is the new talking point about critical race theory. First, it was about voting rights. First, it was about progressiveness. Now, it's about critical race theory. And what is critical race theory is that it's saying that government institutions in America were always racially motivated. How can you dispute that? I mean, look at Jim Crow. I mean, what angers me about this is that I played into that narrative. I played into the narrative that Ben is speaking about. Look, America's institutions, the police, the government, the state legislatures, at some point in time all played into racial discrimination, or still do play into racial discrimination and prejudice. I think he's going to talk about this more. I'll talk about this in a little bit more and elaborate on it.
That racism is a normal state of the world, that people don't even acknowledge their own racism, and that people benefit from that racism. Okay, and that kids are supposed to be taught this. Now, here's the reality. So what did this guy tweet out? What did this reporter, this national political reporter, S.D. Herndon, tweet out for the New York Times? Quote, "It's kind of amazing. Juneteenth is going to be a federal holiday for reasons teachers won't be allowed to explain to their students out of fear of critical race theory backlash." What? I'm pretty sure Americans know about slavery. Turns out that we were all, literally all of us, taught about slavery in school from the time we were children. We are all very much aware of slavery, and that's why Juneteenth is a national holiday, to end slavery. But notice how the left conflates all the issues, right? All the issues are the same, always and forever. All of them. And if you...
Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. No shit. Do they keep pressing you for it? Yeah, of course they keep pressing you because you won't change, or you do very little change. You know, liberals and conservatives are this. One of the criticisms I have is that they either don't pass reform or they pass a lack of it. It's like, why do they always complain? Why do they always complain? Well, maybe it's because on average, white households have a higher average income, and that's because they have a higher rate of going to university. They have a higher education rate. They are majority white counties in America get more state funding than do inner city areas where there's a majority black population, and there is even a higher population in these dense areas like in Georgia and Fulton County. No shit, they want more. They want they want African Americans and people of color to progress and to better themselves. This is a stupid, really stupid and reactionary argument. Like, why do you teach our children about this, about privilege? It's because privilege is everywhere. If there's money involved in the capitalist economy, Shapiro should know this, that in the capitalist economy, there's always going to be inequality, there's always going to be unfairness, and there's always going to be some type of privilege because of wealth accumulation. If we take that same principle and put it into discrimination and racial discrimination, it's going to be the same outcome. It's the same thing. Capitalism and racial discrimination and prejudice, it's almost identical in privileges. In capitalism, it's on class, but in racial discrimination and prejudice in critical race theory, it is on race. They're both the same things. They're just using different articles, different topics to explain these things and these inequalities.
But if you give them what they perceive to be an inch, they then proceed to try and take it for a mile. And that mile is indoctrinating your children in the idea that America's institutions are irrevocably racist, which, by the way, is the precise reverse of what Juneteenth is. Juneteenth is a recognition that America's institutions changed and morphed and molded and adapted in order to be less racist. Right? The reality is the constitutional provisions for amendment were utilized in order to end slavery in the United States. The reality is that it was America's legal process that was changed by the law under the systems and institutions of the United States in order to effectuate the end of legalized racism in the United States. So actually, celebrating Juneteenth is precisely counter to critical race theory, which suggests, Derek Bell openly suggested this, that racism in the United States has gotten worse, not better. Juneteenth is a precise rebuke and rebuttal of that idea. But the media have decided that basically you have to accept, if you are racially sensitive, you have to accept that America is a more racist place, a more terrible place, and you have to allow the indoctrination of your children in this particular idea. That is, of course, absolute stupidity. There's a reason why there is a backlash, and that backlash is going to be extremely strong. I am perfectly willing, and so is every other American I know, to hear about the flaws of the United States. What I'm not willing to hear is that the United States is at root a racist, horrifying country, and our institutions are bad. That is.
Then why did we have slavery? Oh, fuck me. Why did America have slavery in the first place? If it was not a racist institution to start off with, why did they have slavery in the damn Constitution? Why didn't they put it in? Why did they put in all free men are equal, but only if you're white and only if you had land, right? Why did we still have land requirements? Why did we still have this? America was founded by white settlers. All right, and we did an expansion to the West. There, America is rooted in oppression of people of color, and that was started with the First Nation Americans. We pushed America pushed them out. American settlers pushed Native Americans out of their homes, right? Instead of assimilating with them, they pushed them out of their homes, instilled a new culture, and then proceed to take more land until the point where they could not. And then we had the Trail of Tears from the Seminole tribe in Florida, where they migrated all the way to Oklahoma, and there was a massive, tragedy. And then we started cultural assimilation, and and then we did the policy of extermination in the 1960s with Eisenhower, President Eisenhower. There has been, America is rooted in it. Why did we get Jim Crow, right? If America was not rooted in racial theory, why did we get Jim Crow? Why did we get steps back? Why did the FBI? Why did they bomb the Black Panthers headquarters in Chicago? Why did all of that happen, right? When the Black Panthers were defenseless, did not attack the police or provoke them in any way. It is baffling that Ben Shapiro is in a mind that is so delusional of traditionalist historical kind of values that he that disregards all of the problems that African Americans and people of color have. Like, if America wasn't a racist and didn't have racial institutions, how the hell did we elect Woodrow Wilson in 1914 to the presidency? How did we elect a white supremacist into the White House? Right? If racial values and relations were protected, how do we a dumb nut into into the White House who constantly preached white supremacist theory in the White House? Like, how do we do that? And how do we do? And how did, for a few a good few years of of America, a good few decades of American history, how did we not maybe stop slavery or maybe abolished it at the start, right? If America wasn't a racist institution to start off with, it's a stupid idea, I think, that Ben Shapiro thinks, and I can't believe that I actually fell for that when I was younger.